Hey YouTube, this is Gracie and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is a collaboration video with a wonderful lady named Sandy Parker, who just so happens to be my YouTube mentor. She has a channel called Crafting for Almost Everyone, and together we decided to make Groot inspired greeting cards for you guys today. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Groot is a tree type alien from the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, and the inspiration behind my card today was Groot from the first film. And spoiler alert, if you haven't seen that first film yet, definitely skip this little brief description. So towards the end of the first film, there's going to be a giant explosion, and Groot sacrifices himself by encompassing his friends in a tree type cocoon, very large tree branchy sphere to protect them. And obviously in doing so, he sacrifices himself. So that was my inspiration for this round shape, almost nest type card. Now, I'm going to be showing you guys how to make this card today, but if you're new to my channel, definitely wait to the very end, and I'm going to be leaving in some links to my very first video in which I explain what Disneybounding is, particularly what Disneybounding greeting cards means to me. But just to give a brief explanation, Disneybounding greeting cards is when you are representing a character from a Disney film without using their face or their exact image. So you're representing them in the color schemes that you're putting together, colored cardstock, little hints towards the character in shapes, and things like the little leaves here that you see. That's kind of something that is a nod to the character. So let's get on with the video, and I'll be showing you guys how to make this card today. So the very first thing that you're going to need to do is get your card. Now, I get my cards from Hobby Lobby, and they come in a pack of cards and envelopes. They are approximately 5.5 by 4-inch cards, and this is the color that I chose to do today. Now, on all four corners, usually they're pointed, so I went ahead and took my corner punch and just punched out all four corners to make the edges rounded. The next step you'll want to do, let me go ahead and move this away, is you're going to want to take two embossing folders, and these are the two that I chose today. The wood, grain, and then also this weird like crackle slash broken glass embossing folder. You'll want to run that through some brown cardstock, and I chose some light colored so that my inks will show on that. And the very first thing you'll want to do is ink this particular wood embossing folder, and I used Holtz Distress ink, and I did it in the Vintage Photo and the Wild Honey. And you're just going to want to just run that across the very top of your paper, and that will leave a really cool color. After you've inked that, you're going to want to take some circle framelit dies, in which I used my Sizzix framelits, and I'll go ahead and leave all the sizes of what die cuts I used. But these are the three that I used for my whole project today. So you're going to want to take the large framelit and die cut that around this area. Now, this particular piece of cardstock is not really going to show very much unless you're looking really closely at the end product of your card. So you're gonna go ahead and run that through the die cut machine, and basically this is what you will get. A little bit of Disney magic there for you guys. After you've achieved this look, you're not going to worry about the weird shape of it, because all of the other layers on top are going to hide any imperfections or anything that's wrong with it. So you're going to want to glue that down like so. And obviously you're going to want to add some more glue than that, so let me get some larger glue here. And I am just using my Tombow glue, liquid glue, and just go ahead and run that around there, just like that. And just go ahead and place that in the center of your card. Now, this is going to be a horizontal card, so make sure you do it in the right spot. The next thing you're going to want to do is take this embossed folder, and you're going to either ink it, it's up to you, doesn't matter. In my original card I did not ink it, and I just went through and cut out all of these little intricate holes. Now, just for video's sake, I ended up doing it in some color, and again I just used my Distress inks from Holtz, ran that across the top, And then I also used my Perfect Pearls mists, and I just sprayed that very lightly on the top and let that dry. So what you'll want to do next is go ahead and glue that down as well. And I am using a different glue applicator for this because of all the small spots. You don't want it to be too messy with all of the excess glue kind of coming out of the edges. And you're just going to want to strategically place all of that glue there. Make sure all of it is pressed down. And you can also use glue dots for this. In particular, Zots would be really nice because it takes a little less time and you don't have to wait for it to dry. But this is basically going to be good enough for us today. Go ahead and make sure that all of the major edges are going to be glued. And just flip that over. And again, just place that somewhere in the center because, like I said, it's not really going to show too much. Just a little bit. Add some nice good pressure to that. Especially because this back piece is embossed, so it has raised edges. You're going to want to add enough glue to get into those little nooks and crannies there. The next thing you're going to want to do is take your circle framelit dies, cut all of them on a piece of brown cardstock just like this, a couple of times because you're going to need a total of 4 circles, and that will look like this. This is the end product. So you'll want 2 sets of these. The very first set you're going to want to again run through your embossing folder that looks like broken glass, and you can do that in strategic places. So by doing that, you'll want to kind of place that in areas that you like it, because you're going to want this to kind of look like little branches once you've cut it out. So you may have to run that through a couple times. You could also just take your another piece of large cardstock and then cut your circle out of that. But I found it to be easier to kind of put it in a few times in areas that I liked it, because then I get the desired look that I'm going for. So once you've done that, your circles are going to look a little bit like this. Now this one did break, but that's going to be okay because you're going to be gluing it down. I again used my Tim Holtz ink and ran it across the top of the paper, and then again sprayed it with my Perfect Pearls. So that was the large circle, and this is the smaller circle. So when you're cutting out all of these little holes and little branch type shapes, be extra careful. So use a X-Acto knife or small scissors, kind of like these, just to be able to have more control and get those little areas cut out very nicely. After you've done that, you're going to take your second set of circles and you're going to want to use some Zots, or you could even use a tape runner and just go ahead and run that across the top of each circle, because the next step you're going to be doing is taking your ribbon like this and just cutting pieces off. Let me move that. Cutting pieces off and placing it atop the circles there. And you'll go ahead and cut off any edges to make it a little bit rounder. And this is kind of what it will look like. Here, some more Disney magic for you guys. So this is the large circle that I came up with. I used Zots, so you can kind of see that there's some shimmer behind the ribbon, but that's okay because it is going to be covered by the next piece. So this is the large piece. After applying the ribbon to that, you're going to want to glue down your large circle. So again, using strategic places, glue here. And you could also use smaller Zots for that too. It's a little less messy and slightly more guaranteed that it's going to stick. I kind of like Zots. They are pretty much a all-purpose kind of adhesive, less messy. So if you're someone that doesn't really like a lot of glue being around, then that would be my recommendation. And just again, you'll want to add some larger kind of dots of this because it's going to be having to sit on ribbon that is, lots of holes and nooks and crannies there. So attempt to nicely flip that around and place that onto your circle like so. And try to press it down as best you can. Move it around if you have to. I'm going to try and do this quickly. So I'm going to move that aside, and I'm going to be using a large, oops, got stuck to my finger, a large stamp pad thing here, and I'm going to place that on there to let that dry. It adds that extra pressure that you need to glue it down. Okay, the next one is the smaller circle, which kind of ended up looking like this. And again, just gluing down that next piece. And try your best to not get too much glue everywhere. Let me get into shot here, here we go. Now I'm trying to add a little bit extra, like I said, because I want it to stick and get into those little nooks and crannies from the ribbon. Let's try not to get it on my fingers again. Very difficult. And just go ahead and putting that down on the very top. There you have it. I'm going to also set that aside and put on a slightly smaller clear block. And that, like I said, just adds the pressure that you need for it to stick down and glue. So this is the next step here is you're going to want to, let's see if I can get this to stay here. Take the very back side of your circles, which this one just is not completely dried yet, and that is okay because it will be able to sit and dry afterwards. You'll want to flip those over and add some pop dots. Now these pop dots, I've layered 2 on top of each other for the very back or the very top level here. For the little one, I just used 1 layer. So you'll go ahead and take these off and just place that down in the center here. And again, this is not quite dry, so I'm also adding pressure to make sure that the glue stays there. Then the second layer here, just taking off those backings. And this will be able to be raised just a slight bit higher than the first layer. Now the next step you'll want to do is take a Birch Trio memory box die cut, and I ran that through some dark brown paper, and this is kind of what I came up with. I ended up cutting off a couple of the branches. You'll want to write your sentiment on there, and then all I did after that was I just kind of slid it through these layers to put wherever I wanted it to go, which not quite working here. So this does take some time to really place it where you want it to go. But that's kind of the idea that I went with. And you can also just layer it on the top, glue it down, cut off the edges. And then the very last step is to add your leaves. Now these leaves are extras from a previous video that I did, which I did a Tinkerbell greeting card. So if you're interested in seeing that, I'll go ahead and leave that in the description at the end as well. And you'll just kind of place those anywhere that you want and then glue them down like so. Ta-da! There you have it. There is your Disneybounding Groot card. Now I'll go ahead and show you the inside that I did. The sentiment I also took from online. Both sentiments here and here I got from Google. Good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they're always there. Mainly because this is a space type movie, so that's why I use that. And on the very back side, I always include my G stamp. And on the side here, it says GR1515T, which is basically Disney's version of the word Groot. So that's why I chose to do that on the back. So there you have it. There is your Disneybounding Groot inspired card. And if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up. Definitely go ahead and go over to Crafting for Almost Everyone and subscribe to her channel as well. Leave some comments down below. If you liked it, what you didn't like, let me know. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!